Welcome to Insights in Sound, where we talk to the people behind the scenes, behind the technology, and behind the music. People you may not know, but you should. And please check out insightsinsound.com for a full list of our podcasts and YouTube series.
And big thanks to our sponsors, Mackie, Roland, Mojave Audio, Ozbot.
I'm here with Bob Clearmountain. We are in the brand new, is this still called Mix This?
It's called Mix This, but I kind of, just for fun, I add the little FTA, which means from the ashes.
I love it. Oh, did you add a second exclamation point as well?
No, just the one exclamation point. But yeah, so that's sort of unofficial, but it's still Mix This.
Yeah.
You know.
So this is still the new studio. This is the new SSL console or consoles.
Yeah, put together by Tom and Chris Lordalgi for me, which is like amazing. And then a whole lot of there's little plaques around the room for the outboard gear that people donated. It's an interesting time because so many producers and mixers have gone in the box, and so they have all this old analog gear sitting around, and collecting dust. And it's Clearmountain, yeah, here, take it.
You've got a few here, the old LA2As and stuff like that. There used to be
LA3, well, the 1176s.
The 1176s too. There used to be a running joke around LA years ago, back in the 80s, that Shelly Yakis would basically buy them all out of the recycler, and he'd have Gary go through them, and any that didn't pass muster would go back on the recycler. So if you found one for sale, it had already been rejected by Shell.
Probably.
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
Yeah. I want to first, preface some of this by going through a little bit of your history, because, that's what you have to do when you do these kind of interviews and stuff like that. So you came up at well, obviously you're in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I share that with you as well as being a bass player.
Oh, really? Oh, great.
Yeah. And actually that's a running conversation I've had with a number of bass players, because I've always been fascinated by the fact that bass players tend to become producers and engineers more often than almost any other instrument.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why that is, but
my theory is that because we're not soloists.
No,
right?
that's for sure.
So we have to zoom out and we have to see the whole picture in that sense from that 30,000 foot perspective.
Yeah.
And therefore we tend to be a little bit more focused on that side of things. That's my theory anyway.
That sounds good to me.
It works for me.
Yeah, I don't really know. I just know I think one reason I was a bass player was, because you're not the lead singer or the lead guitar player.
Yeah.
You're kind of more background.
Yeah.
Which I was so fine with. In fact, so much so that I didn't even want to be on the stage anymore. And so once I realized that there was this job in a recording studio, okay, I'll take that, because then nobody's looking at me.
For me, it was more the stability factor too, because that's the thing with, musicians being the personalities that we are. You end up always in these bands with these people who are just slightly crazy.
Yeah. Well, the last band I was in broke up because the guitar player was screwing the lead singer's girlfriend.
Oh, that never happens.
Yeah, and it's sort of a typical band thing to happen. I went, okay, I got to get a proper job.
Yeah, exactly. So you came through the power station.
That's right. Well, more than came through it, I helped find the building, and in fact, your friend John Stork was in on it for a bit. He was helping us look for buildings, and then help build it, help design it.
Well, and Power Station and Tony Bon Jovi, we have a lot of 6 Degree connections there. Zoe Thrall is a good friend.
All right, yeah, Zoe's an old friend.
And of course, Eddie Stasium came up through Tony as well.
Yeah, and he was going to be one of the he was helping us to find the building as well. And he was going to be in on it, and something about Tony, I think, put him off at some point, and he went, I'm not doing this.
He's not the only one. I mean, Tony, again, you want to talk legendary personalities in the industry.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Well, Tony's brilliant. I mean, I have so much respect for him, but He was a little tricky to work with sometimes.
Well, that's what everyone says about him. You know, he helped me. He helped launch so many careers, and such a brilliant guy.
No, he's really.
But as with so many people in our industry, you know, a little erratic, shall we say?
A little bit, yeah.
Eccentric.
Eccentric. That's definitely the word. A good word. And then his partner was kind of, well, questionable as well. Yeah, and the whole thing was. It's amazing that it was as good as it was.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that's what you call the supporting cast.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I think, you know, if you look at almost any success story in our industry, nobody's an island.
No.
You know.
No. Well, there were so many people involved in Power Station, in so many ways, right down to the guys, the actual carpenters that built it. You know, and the inspectors that didn't know about it. And it was it was a fun time for me, you know, building this new studio, and it was a big studio too, you know. It wasn't just some little office studio.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that's one of the things, you know, we were having this conversation last night at the event we did at Cherokee, you know, coming up in this era when you had multi-room studios. You know, there was so much of that intermingling and that, you know, just sort of creative juices that went through just that whole thing, you know.
Yeah, well, a good example of that is I was mixing the Roxy music album Avalon, and we hadn't gotten to the song Avalon yet, and Brian Ferry had something in his head about he wanted a female voice in there somewhere, and he was walking in and he heard someone warming up, this beautiful voice warming up in Studio A lounge, and he walked in and found where it was coming from, and it was this little Haitian woman. There was a Haitian band in Studio A recording, and she was warming up, and he said, "Oh, wow, who are you?" And she didn't really speak much English, and so they got someone to translate. And he said, "Can you sing on my album, please?" And she went, "Okay, sure." You know,
I have no idea who you are.
I don't know who
sure,
you are. Yeah, she had no clue.
Yeah.
You know, and then she ended up touring with them. You know, and she sang that beautiful thing at the end of the song Avalon,
which
you
makes the song in so many ways.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
But that was because there's another band working in a multi-room studio. Unfortunately, I don't really have that here.
Well, that's the thing is, so, you know, that kind of business model is so much harder to maintain now. It's pretty much over, you know. Yeah. There's, well, you know, the aforementioned Zoe Thrall, she works at a studio in Henderson, Nevada, called The Hideout. And that's a multi-room studio too. But even there, you know, every studio now has its own lounge.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of siloed.
Yeah.
And that was not the case. I mean, you know, we had these memorable encounters in the lounge at Cherokee all the time.
I bet, yeah.
You know, just people you'd never imagine, you know, because I worked there in the 80s, so it was the hair band era, you know, and you'd have like Warrant sitting there with, you know, Edie Gourmet and you know, these really crazy kind of conversations that would go around, you know, and I think that's, in a way, it's sad that we've lost that. You know?
Yeah, I think we have. I mean, that's sort of why we have a studio in Apogee. We have the Apogee studio, and that's one of the reasons I decided to build that, because you know I was in the basement of my house in the Palisades, and I just thought I just need something to get out of the basement once in a while.
Yeah.
And so we would do live shows for KCRW over there. In fact, we just did one a couple nights ago.
Really? So you're still doing those?
Still doing them, yeah.
Oh,
sure.
That's great. Yeah, we were just talking about Josh Rogosian, who did the Tiny Desk concerts for a while there.
Yeah.
You know, and actually, we wanted to have him come out and do some workshops here because, again, you know, I love the idea of getting out there and doing this stuff live in a live environment like that. It's just we don't do it anymore. We're all siloed like this.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So that was actually one of the things I wanted to talk to you about because you came up in this different era.
Yeah.
And not only in terms of that social aspect of it, but the whole way that we made music a lot of the stuff that you mixed, a lot of the live stuff, a lot of, because you did Live Aid, you did the concert for New York City,
right.
And then tracks that were, you talked about Roxy Music.
Mm-hmm.
I know you did a bunch of Stones tracks, things like that. Stuff that was tracked more or less live.
Well, a lot of Stones concert videos and 2 movies for them, and but all the people that I work with, I've done videos for, lots for Bryan Adams, for Springsteen. Did a movie last year for Springsteen. So much. Half of my stuff is live. I mean, I'm mixing a live album right now.
Yeah.
And I just love doing live. Just give me enough audience tracks. That's the thing. So,
yeah. But even in terms of the stuff that wasn't done live, the recording process.
Well, recording was for me
was much more live.
When I was producing, I'd always have the entire band in the studio with a singer in a booth, or sometimes out in the room even.
Yeah.
Just for vibe. Even though I know, okay, I'll redo that later, but I want the band to hear what the song is.
And sometimes you don't do it later. We were talking earlier about Roger Basharian, And one of the things that Roger said to me once that I really loved was, I used to tell my assistant to put it in record and then set up the mics.
Exactly.
Always
the
be
first
capturing
thing.
stuff.
Record everything.
Yeah. And that, I think that's one of the things that's changed that really, that I wanted to ask you about. We did so much back then that was really tracking for the mix.
Yeah.
And there's not as much of that now. And how has that changed the way you work?
Well, I mean, mostly I'm just mixing now. I don't really record that much. So I don't know if it's really, nothing that has changed that much, other than we're using a lot more speakers nowadays.
Yeah, of course. Well, that was the other thing I wanted to ask about was the Atmos stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
And, but no, I'm kind of doing what I always did. I mean, I'm always trying to come up with new stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
And people inspire me to do new things. I'll work with a client that'll ask for something and sometimes I go, what? You want to do what? I go, okay. At first I kind of go, but instead I'll go, okay, let's see how we can do that. And, I'll think that it's a terrible idea. But half the time it'll be, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Let's try this.
No, this works in this song, in this in that particular situation. A lot of times it's a good thing, and so I never say, no, that's not going to work.
Right. Of course.
I just don't ever do that.
Of course.
I always go, well, okay, I'll find a way to do that.
Yeah, you never want to stifle the artist in that sense.
Right, exactly.
But like, for example, yes, you're doing more mixing now, but the tracks that you receive, is there a lot more of like having to comp stuff and things like that than there used to be?
Not really. Most of the stuff, by the time it gets to me, it's mostly done.
Okay.
And I might do an edit or something and rearrange something a little bit, but usually it's pretty finished. And so, and everything is, in the old days, we'd record drums on four or five tracks at the most.
Sure.
And things would be comped down. Everything would be bounced. If you'd have a bunch of backing vocals, they'd be down, because you only had 24 tracks.
Right.
Or 23, really.
If that, really.
Yeah. But then, since digital, you have unlimited numbers of tracks, which sometimes is unfortunate because people
That's what I'm thinking, because you have now no limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be a problem. I mean, a good producer or somebody who knows what they're doing won't let that get out of hand. They'll just get rid of whatever isn't necessary.
Yeah.
And but sometimes I have to do it. I've done a few things where, okay, this is all good. These things, let's see, mute.
Yeah.
There'll be 15 synthesizers. Okay, we probably work with 8 synthesizers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm thinking like mad respect to guys like Phineas who can comp a plausible vocal out of 100 different takes and stuff like that.
Is that what he does? 100 takes?
I've seen actually a video of him just comping down to the syllable and stuff like that. Man. And like I say, I mean, respect to somebody who can do that.
Yeah.
But I really
Don't make
love.
me do that.
Well, we were talking about Eddie
used to do
Stasium, and Ed told me a story about one of his first sessions was Midnight Train to Georgia.
Oh man!
And he said Gladys Knight came in did the entire thing, one take, sucked on her lemon for a minute and then just did. And she called him up a couple days later and said, I want to replace one line.
Really?
So that entire thing is almost a contiguous performance. And
That's so great to hear.
I think that's so different from how we do things now.
Yeah. Well, it is, I mean, and different people do it different ways.
Sure.
With Bryan Adams, because we were on 24 track, he would, we'd have 2 tracks for vocal, and one would be the main one, and he would just punch in. He would just phrase by phrase, or word by word sometimes. You know? And then when he'd get one where, like he'd think it was okay, and I go, well, maybe you could do a little bit better, and we'd put that on another track, and if it was better, we'd bounce it over.
Right. But you had just those 2 tracks.
That was the comp.
Yeah.
We'd actually comp it well. Then later, he started doing 8 or 10 tracks and comping from that.
I mean, to me, I feel like that kind of affects the performance in certain ways. Maybe only to us, because we're involved in the creative side of it.
It does. It affects it to me, yeah, for sure.
It's like, I think we can hear that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really changed a lot of the way we make music now.
Well, yeah. I mean, electronically, you could do all these things to make something sound smooth when really the performance wasn't all that great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame because it's nice when there's that's other thing where you can make everything, put everything in time, put everything in tune, and it makes everything sound the same.
Yeah.
And it's nice if you can leave some of the human quality in the music and all the instruments, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's it's interesting. I heard recently, I want to say it was one of the LA radio stations. They did this kind of mashup of a whole bunch of the current modern rock tracks.
Yeah.
And you could literally go from one to the next, and same BPM, same key almost.
Sometimes the same chords.
Yeah. It's like the uniqueness of it has kind of been polished out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm mixing a Live Squeeze album at the moment, and they were. I mean, they had their thing. Nobody sounded like them.
Yeah, it's such a tight band. I saw them way back in the '80s, opening for Elvis Costello.
Oh man, Elvis was amazing too.
Yeah.
That with the Attractions was such a great band.
Yeah. But again, all that stuff. I mean, they could pull that off live.
Yeah.
And that to me is just incredible.
And they were great songs. They weren't repetitious or there was no loop running all the way through the thing, and they had sections and parts, and the songs would build. Yeah. And had some place to go.
Yeah, and the second verse had a little bit extra added so that it would build from the first and stuff like that.
I know, and it's great songwriting. Yeah, whatever happened to that?
Well, and that's, again, I'm a firm believer in the power of limits. Yeah. And the fact that you had to kind of do that in order to create something, which, and you talk about synthesizers. Yeah. I mean, man, when you had maybe 1 or 2 synths, you had to milk the hell out of every single one of them. You had to tweak a patch and come up with your own stuff. And now we're just rolling through presets on virtual synths and everything.
I mean, I don't want people to think that I'm saying there's no good music nowadays.
Oh, of course not.
Because there's a lot of great music. I mean, Billie Eilish is a good example.
Yeah.
There's some great, incredible performers out there, and but it's not as much. I think there was a lot more back. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why.
Well, I think
more
also,
real.
You had more gatekeepers in a way, and as much as we can malign the record labels forever, and
Sure, let's do that.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, but there was that element of gatekeepers, and now the fact that anybody can make music and put it out there is a wonderful thing. Yeah, but it's a horrible thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, how do you find that really great stuff, or how does it find you?
Because everybody thinks, oh, look, I can make a great. I just drag these loops into this timeline, and I have a great record.
Yeah.
And then I put my voice through extreme auto-tune, and I just sound like I'm on the radio. And you know, yeah, but you haven't really written a song.
Well, and thank you, the folks at Antares, but I really hate your invention.
Yeah, right.
It has become an instrument in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I'm so tired of hearing auto-tune vocals, extreme auto-tune.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who was a high school friend send me his son's demo, and what do you think of my son? I want you to hear his songs and his voice, and it was just slammed through auto-tune. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, send me something where I can actually hear his voice, and I'll let you know, but I can't tell a thing from this.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that and I've had this conversation with a few friends, a lot of the demos that you get now from younger singers, they sing straight. They don't sing blue notes anymore because they're so accustomed to hearing
it that way,
that kind of thing.
All perfectly in tune. Yeah.
And I just heard you comping some of these vocals here, and there's some blue notes in there, and it's, to me, that's the soul of the whole performance.
No, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So how has that changed for you? I mean, do you find yourself cleaning up stuff more now, or
no, not really. I'm kind of doing this. Of course, everybody, like I was telling you earlier, everyone I work with sings perfectly in tune and in time, so I don't really have to do any of that.
Yeah.
But but if I did.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, a lot of the artists that you work with do come from that old school kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And so you're fortunate in that sense. But a lot of the new stuff that you hear now, I mean, I'm sure that people are still giving you demos left and right,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what do you hear now that's changed in that sense?
I don't know, just it's hard to say, because I don't get as many, because I'm not a producer really, and I don't get as many demos, but I get things that people want me to mix, and there's a lot of stuff that is just, I don't, right back to my manager, I don't think so. And it's just that songs, but it's always been that way, you've always get a lot of people writing songs. Every once in a while there's a good one. Most of them aren't good, or at least not to me. And so that's the whole thing. And sometimes I know as a producer I'd get overproduced demos, and so you're trying to hear a song through this massive production that somebody's done, because you can do that at home now. With plugins and loops and everything. And I mean, it used to be that occasionally you would get a acoustic guitar and vocal, or piano and vocal,
where you could really hear the song.
Instead of, I don't want people to try to impress me with their production. Because if I'm a producer, then
that's what we're going to hire a producer for.
Yeah, and sometimes people, of course, there's the demo-itis thing, that somebody's done this incredible demo they spent forever on, all the plugins and the certain sounds and this and that, and then you try to top it, and they're so used to hearing that that even if you do something that's much better, a lot of times there's that demo-itis.
Chasing the demo.
Yeah. They go, well, no, it sounded good on the demo, let's do that.
Yeah. I worked with one artist who we ended up basically having him record the vocal on his Porta Studio at his kitchen table, because that's what he used to do, and then we just, you load that in, and
well, that's okay. Yeah,
exactly. Whatever it is that worked on that.
In fact, my wife makes all kinds of gear that you can do that really very high quality with.
I know. I'm a fan.
Apogee mics and lavaliers. They make a good one of those things.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious about that too. You kind of migrated to being more of a mixer.
Yeah.
And you have produced artists, and of course that's a totally different part of the creative process.
Yeah.
Working with the artist and getting that out of them, is that something you just decided wasn't that you didn't like, or was it just circumstances that got you into being more of a mixer? And
I didn't think I was very good at it. I didn't think I was, because I work with people like Don Was and Tony Berg and some of these guys that are really, really good at that, and I'm thinking, I I should do what I'm good at. I'm pretty good at mixing.
Well, it's a psychology.
And I'm not good at that psychology, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And dealing with the label and the artist and the moods and whatever. I was just like, no, just give me the music and some faders and I'm good.
Well, it's funny because
I'm a very simple man.
Yeah, you mentioned Don, and when I was coming up at Cherokee, I got to watch him. I got to watch guys like Phil Ramone and Peter Asher. And there really is.
Because they're really good.
Yeah, and there's a certain just a psychology aspect of it that I find fascinating. The working with the label part, that really turned me off. But that psychology that you're talking about, that's a completely different part of the art form.
It's an incredible talent to have.
Yeah.
And being musical as well with that. And I'm fairly musical, but unfortunately I never really learned to play piano properly. And so, I'll have something in my head and I just can't go over and say, okay, play this chord,
Yeah.
I could probably do it if I spent enough time figuring it out, but I just wasn't very good at it. And not only that, but when I was producing, it would always be the end of the day, and I'd be like, "Oh, does anybody want a nice rough mix?" That was my favorite thing, was doing the rough mix.
Yeah.
People go, "Oh no, that's all right. You don't have to do it." No, really. How about a rough mix? Because I just love that part.
Well, but now that also, that's the whole thing there of, once you do the rough mix, do people get married to that rough mix because they're listening to it for a week or whatever, and
well, if it's my rough mix, I have to outdo it.
So then you're the one who's got to mix it.
I have to outdo it,
Yeah. That's a challenge too.
Yeah.
Man.
I used to try to get somebody else to, because it's hard to, if you produce a record, that's the other thing. Mixing can be difficult because you can't really see the forest for the trees. You know every note on the thing. And it's a lot easier to mix something when you're objective and you don't have any preconceived notions about anything,
Well, that's why I've always been fascinated by these guys that can do the producer and engineer role.
Yeah.
Because, on the one hand, you want that, you want to be able to say, I want to be intuitive enough that I can translate that musical aspect to this, to the technology. But on the other hand, it's left brain, right brain.
Yeah. It's tricky. I get distracted. I'm recording and I'm thinking about sounds, and I should be thinking about the performance. And I could do it sometimes. I've done it, and I can do it, but it's just I don't enjoy it doing that.
But then again, you've got to then have that communication with the artist and the producer for, when like, I've had guitar players say things to me like, can you make my guitar sound a little more brown?
Oh, that's a rough one.
Yeah, well, I figured it out. He wanted it warmer,
Yeah, right.
But I mean, again, just distilling that artistic thing into the technology part of it, that's a talent too, man.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. No, absolutely. Yeah, I've had all kinds of descriptions, but I'd rather get some sort of esoteric description than somebody tell me, add 4 dB at 800 cycles or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like getting real specific. Well, wait a minute, that's my department. I'll interpret what you want to, the kind of vibe you want or the feeling that you want.
And that gives you more freedom too.
Yeah, and I'll turn it in. I'll make that work. You know? Because that's the fun part.
So now I wanted to talk about your move to Atmos.
Yeah.
Because Atmos, and immersive in general, has opened up a whole new world. And that's got to have been interesting for you in a way.
Yeah, it's fun. Because I was remixing the band's first 4 albums, but I had done 5/1 mixes for Big Pink, the Brown album, and Stage Fright, and then Cahoots came up, and the label said, "Oh, this time can you deliver an Atmos mix?" I was like, "Ooh, okay." Well, I looked around the room, and I'll just have to upgrade the room really quickly, which I did, and I'm still really proud of that one. I mean, that's
a lot of stuff going on musically in that album.
Yeah, it's not their best record, that's for sure. But there's some really interesting songs on there. Life is a Carnival is a great.
That's the one
song.
I'm thinking of. Yeah, I mean, Gar Hudson's stuff on there is just all over the place.
No, it's really good. And Robbie gave me a lot of freedom on that one because he didn't really like the way it came out ever, and he just thought that we never really nailed. It just wasn't recorded. It was the first thing ever recorded at Bearsville Studios when Albert Grossman opened the place, and he felt they were sort of forced into making a record because Albert wanted somebody to use the studio. And so he said, look, whatever you can do, just change the arrangements, take stuff out, and so it was a really fun record for me.
Yeah.
And plus it was a Atmos.
Yeah.
And so I was playing around with putting things in different speakers but then I've been, I've done, I must have done 30 or 40 albums in Atmos so far, or more than that. I've done all this Brian Ferry stuff.
I've heard some of those mixes over there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we did an AES workshop a few months ago where we were listening to the Atmos mix of Avalon.
Yeah.
And man, just
thanks.
seriously, dude, that was that's some amazing stuff.
Well, a bunch of other ones. Boys and Girls is out now, and there's a few other ones. I think Taxi and Mamuna. Just there's a bunch of them. And then we're doing more in the fall, actually.
So talk to me about that. It's almost, I mean, you have a whole new box of crayons.
Yeah.
How do you keep from overusing them?
Well, I try to keep true to the original mix. I mean, I'll kind of work on a stereo mix first that's as close as possible to the original, right? And then I go for, okay, where can we put things to make this more interesting? In this sort of, it's like a theater, really. I think of Atmos as an environment. You're it's like an expanding environment, and because I use quad reverbs and all kinds of delays and things like that.
Which is most of what you put in the back, right? I mean, you don't put like a lot of vocals and stuff behind you.
Not so much. Sometimes I'll put the vocals in the side. If there's backing vocals, there's a lot of them. It depends on the song, but you'll get something that's like, if it sounds like a church choir, I'll put them up in the balcony in the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that could work. Yeah.
Yeah. Just things like that. You have to keep the song in mind and what the artist is trying to get across with the song, and it can't distract from whatever the song is, the narrative of the song. That's something that Springsteen drilled into my head for years, just on stereo mixes. Yeah, that it just keep that connection, with the song itself and whatever the singer is singing about. And it's the same. It's really not that much different than stereo. It's just that you're actually immersed in it, hence the name immersive.
Well, one of the things that I've been fascinated about in listening to Atmos mixes is not so much the back stuff, but the height.
Yeah.
The fact that you can actually put stuff like up here a little bit more and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
and that
fun.
Tends to give you a little bit more of that seperation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that I've heard that, the Atmos mixes where I go, wow, I didn't even know there was a guitar there.
Yeah, right.
Little stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of if it's a band, if it's a rhythm section, that they're sitting around me. That I'm in the middle of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so there'll be a guitar over there or a piano over there,
Yeah, you get more
organ back in the back,
Yeah.
strings in the back very often, things like that. Where the drums and vocals are basically in the front. And I use the center speaker a lot, where a lot of people don't. But I think that's really important because to me, that's the focus of the mix.
Well, that could be what, a couple of people have said to me that your Atmos mixes fold down to stereo better than a lot of other people's.
Oh, really?
And that could be
That's
why.
nice. I didn't know that, but that's great.
Well, there you go.
Maybe that, I don't know why, but but I do use that. That's one of the things that always bothered me about stereo, was that if I move to this side of the room, now everything that was supposed to be the center has followed me over to the right.
Yeah.
And whereas if it's anchored, I can walk around the room, which I usually do before I print an Atmos mix, and I like to see where everybody is, where all the instruments are, and I like to maintain that. That things don't move when I move.
Well, the running joke is, who said this to me? Nico said to me one time, the only thing that matters is the produce section at Kroger. And what he meant by that is, if I'm walking around and, something's playing overhead, if I only hear like the left channel, does the song still make sense to me?
Right.
And a lot of like the early stereo mixes. If
they
you think about
weird.
it, it's like, it's really weird, man. I'm only hearing like, half of the song.
Yeah. Apparently the Beatles had a big problem with that. They were putting, the label was putting stuff out that it was, in the early days, it was their multi-track was stereo.
Yeah.
Right. And so they'd put it out as wasn't actually stereo. It was 2 channels.
I was just going to say, it's not really stereo when you have the drums over here.
And they'd mix it to mono.
Yeah.
And then stereo came along and said, oh, look, there's 2 channels. Yeah, let's just put it out. And it just didn't really work.
Yeah.
I liked it because as who I am, I put the thing on, I go, oh, great, I can hear the rhythm section over here, and I can hear the vocals over here, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's fun, but...
I like that too, as you say, for almost for the analytical perspective of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, theoretically, the whole idea behind stereo is, stuff that reaches this ear maybe a little bit sooner than it reaches that ear. You want to recreate that live space.
Right. That's the thing.
And I guess Atmos allows you to do that even more, doesn't it?
Well, it really does. And it was interesting with the band stuff, where Robbie said that when they recorded, and it drove the engineers nuts because they'd like to set up in a circle without gobos or anything, just looking at each other, so that they could, they could kind of play off of each other, they could signal, and in the studio they wanted to rope everything off and put it, and they said no, we're not doing that. And so for me, I mixed it like that, like they're all sitting around me.
Yeah, I saw them live and they set up like that too.
Yeah.
And that is really truly one of the most underrated, that Brown album especially, like there's not a clunker on it.
No, it's an amazing record.
Yeah. But again, that's one of those bands that, the sum total of the parts. Robbie, all due respect to him and everything, but his solo stuff would have never matched what they got together as a synergistic
They were amazing.
Unit.
They were really incredible. Just the way their vocals worked together, because there were 3 lead singers in the band.
Yeah.
And they were all amazing. Mm-hmm. And they would all sing together, and it's beautiful. Really was beautiful.
I remember, I can't remember where I heard this, but I remember at some point I read a review of a band, and the drummer was singing a song, and the guy wrote, now, first of all, drummers shouldn't sing unless they're Levon Helm.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it just something about that band, they were freaks in that sense.
I know. Levon was amazing.
Yeah. Well, let me wrap by asking you the question that I ask almost everybody. Mm-hmm. You came up in this completely different era, both creatively, technology, everything else. What do you tell 15-year-old you coming up now, besides run?
Yeah, learn a trade. It's a tough business to break into. Mm. I don't know how you do it nowadays. I wish I knew. People ask me that all the time. But you could do like my assistant Ira, who just hounded me. He phoned me like once a month for a year. Mm-hmm. And then he worked with Nico, and Nico phoned me and said, oh, look, you should check this guy out. Uh-huh. Then finally, he phoned me one day when it was on my own. I had no assistant at the time. And everything was, nothing was working. All the computers were ganging up, and it was one of those kind of days. Uh-huh. I'm sure you've had days like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just getting really wound up, and the phone rings. You go, what? Who the fuck are you? Like, what? Oh, this is Ira again. Ira, oh, just get the fuck over here right now. And that was it.
I mean,
so that's one way of doing it.
Man, you know, I stalked David Rubinson.
Yeah.
You know, back at the Automat in San Francisco, same way. You know, I mean, I think that's really, maybe that's still the way in. I don't know. It's harder now. Yeah, it's
really tough. I think, and because everything is isolated. Like I say, if you can get a job in a still a working studio, that's great. That's probably a good way to do it if you can swing that. But and there's great schools. There's Berkeley School of Music, of course, has an incredible a couple of programs for recording engineers and stuff like that. And
we were talking about Crass earlier.
Crass, yeah.
And Blackbird as well.
Right, that's right. Oh, I've kind of done little things at all of them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great to talk to the students and hear what their concerns are and what their worries for their future is. You know, I always suggest, man, post-production. You know, get into movies and commercials and TV, because I think there's got to be more stuff going on there.
Well, there's a lot of jobs that didn't exist when we were coming up.
Yeah.
Too, you know.
Yeah, there's that kind of thing. In fact, I'm doing more TV and stuff like that. I mean, I do the Rockwell Hall of Fame every year and stuff like the Fire Aid show, which is Ira and I did, which is great. And so that stuff that's linked to video, linked to visuals, just concentrate on that, because just records. Yeah, if you happen to hook up with Taylor Swift, good for you, man.
Yeah, it's winning the lottery, basically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, those are the odds. But I mean, I think the industry has changed quite a bit. I mean, do you think that there's still a healthy record industry, quote unquote?
I don't really know. You know,
Yeah.
I wish I knew. I know I've been approving vinyl lately. I brought in a record player as part of the studio now. And so I don't know. Maybe it's, and you hear things about, oh well, it's coming back, and young people are really into records and albums and things like that. Like, boy, that'd be great, but I don't think on a big scale yet.
No, and I think, the convenience of streaming has really changed a lot. You don't do albums anymore.
No, not really. I mean, people are still making albums, and sometimes I wonder why they're even doing that. Why wouldn't you just do a little EP or something, or because who sits down and listens to an album? Not that many people.
Well, and that's
just old people, probably like us.
Well, I joke about that all the time, man. Short attention span theater. And that's, I mean, even down to like this podcast. We talk for this long, but for the most part, what gets heard is these little 30-second snippets that I do.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
right.
Because that's the attention span of the average listener now.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously changed the way we create stuff now too.
Yeah. I guess so. I don't know. I'm doing everything pretty much the way I always did it. I mean, it's the same console I've been working on for 40 years or something like that. 30. I mean, I have a Neve and an SSL, and there you go.
Which is pretty much, Mercedes and BMW.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And, I'm not in the box. I mean, obviously we have the computers here, because everything comes from a computer and goes back into it.
Yeah.
And
don't have a 2-inch machine sitting around anymore?
We have one in the Apogee studio, but it's more of a prop. I mean, the thing doesn't really work properly.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to use it, really.
Well, owning one of those now is like owning a vintage car. I mean, maintaining all that stuff, and Bruce Robb still has an MTR 90 sitting in the studio too.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the ones I aligned 100 times, back in the day. But, who uses that now?
I know. I still have my digital 48-track Sony.
Oh, the Sony?
Yeah, it was worth $250,000 when it was new, and now you have to pay somebody to take it away. You know, it's just worthless.
Well, we were joking about that the other day. Brian Kiheu has a business where he basically restores all these different formats.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and he said, somebody basically found this old Sony, the old Sony 24-track digitals. You know, somebody had wheeled it out onto the sidewalk.
Really?
In New York.
Yeah.
Just left it there for the trash to pick up.
Sure.
You know, it
I know,
blows
it's
my mind. I mean,
incredible
those were
technology.
$200,000.
They
back
were
in the day.
expensive.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't cheap.
And they sounded like shit too, but that's another story.
Well, until Apogee came along and
Yeah.
put new filters in them, you know, then it all got better. But yeah, I mean, my 3348 works perfectly. I mean,
Yeah.
you put a tape on there, it's like brand new. And I rented it out a lot too.
For people to record on, or to
I don't know, people just used it when I wasn't using it. If I'd be
Interesting.
in a different place, or if I wasn't using it, it would go on rental.
I'm impressed that people still want to even use tape.
Some people do. Analog tape.
Analog tape,
Nobody
yeah.
uses digital tape anymore.
Yeah, well, that's why I was wondering why people would rent that out, other than to maybe
Well, not anymore. I'm just saying back in the
Okay.
in the 80s, you know, when I bought it. But yeah, I mean, people do record on analog tape, which, you know, I guess it does a thing.
It does its own compression thing, and
Yeah.
you know.
To me, it's a lot of extra work, you know, lining the tape machine and.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly.
and I don't know if it helps the sound that much, but
Well, you know, I mean,
mind.
yeah, the analog digital wars are long over. You know, it's
Yeah.
been settled, and you know, especially now you have tape saturation plugins.
That's the
and
thing. There's so much that you can get that sound
Yeah,
digitally,
yeah,
but you know, there's a romantic quality about, you know, having that tape spin around and when you open the box, the smell of the tape.
We used to joke about that because every once in a while we'd get a session that wanted 3M tape, and I always was fascinated by the fact that 3M tape in particular, you open the box, it smelled like burning transistors.
Really?
Yeah, that stuff, more than 456 and, you know, some of the other brands, I mean, that stuff was really, it had this very distinctive smell.
I guess I was used to it because we always use 3M tape.
Yeah,
But the thing is that most of the 3M tapes don't need to be baked now. If you know,
that's interesting, really.
The Ampex tape, they used a organic lubricant, and it went bad. It goes bad. It's like fish oil or something. And,
Wow.
And the 3M tape, they used a synthetic lubricant, and that then doesn't go bad, so it doesn't get sticky.
Huh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, because I actually have a 3M tape from the early '70s. I had this little workshop band at Media Sound where I started, and we used to record. And somebody found it and sent it to me, and I put it on the machine and it played perfectly.
Really?
Yeah.
No shedding or anything?
Nothing. No, it was just fine.
Man.
It was just fine. Yeah, but you get an Ampex tape, and no, you have to bake it.
You have to bake it, and you have to be really careful, and hopefully you get everything on that first
Right,
pass.
exactly. Yeah. I know.
Oh, I know. I've watched some of those like peel off onto the heads, and yikes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I mean, you've transitioned to the digital, obviously, like everybody has, but you know, yeah, I see the romanticism of it. You know, the same way it's like you watch a '65 Mustang driving down the road, and you think, "Wow, that's really cool." You get behind the wheel, and you go, "Yeah, you know, this ride's really funky, man." You know, and the steering's all over the place, and
the suspension squeaks like crazy.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but yeah, there's a romanticism to you know how great it was.
I know. I do the same thing. I just saw one the other day, a '65 Mustang. I went, oh man.
Yeah,
I remember those.
Yeah. But do you want to own one?
No.
Not unless you got a full-time mechanic.
Yeah, right.
You know, because that's or we were talking about English sports cars. You know, back in the 80s, I had a Triumph.
Oh, yeah.
That I restored. You know,
fun little car.
Yeah, it was great. It was so much fun to drive. Yeah. But God, you know that running joke about you got to work on it all week to drive it on the weekend.
You had to be into working on the car.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a couple like that.
And that old gear the same way, man. You know. Now,
well, it's funny because our Neve is 50 years old. It's in the Apogee studio. It was actually the first console at Power Station Studio A that came up for sale, and I got it back. But man, that thing, it's like an old car. It takes, Brandon, I think that's probably what he's doing now. There's a couple of channels on that he's been trying to bring back to life.
Well, you know, we were talking last night about the Tridents, the A-ranges, you know, and Cherokee had 4 of them.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a
consoles.
collection of modules that we were always recapping, and then we'd swap them out, you know, and it was like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You were never done.
Right.
You know, same thing, because you really have to work on those things constantly in order to keep them running.
Yeah.
You know, so
we're working on this thing too.
No doubt.
It's pretty much. I think all the channels work on it now.
We hope.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
At least this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and you know, nothing sounds like them.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, they're wonderful instruments in and of themselves. But yeah, you know, that's the convenience factor of having it all on a disc.
Yeah.
You know, nothing beats that. You know, and
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you working on now?
Well, this is my old friend Squeeze, which of course from the '70s, and it's just a live album that they recorded in some place called the Roundhouse in England.
Yeah, I've been to that venue.
Yeah, and so they're just an amazing band. It's really good. I just did another album for them, which is a bunch of songs that they wrote in the early '70s, in '74, I think, that Chris and Glenn wrote, but they just never really recorded it. So they spent I don't know when they recorded it, probably last year. They recorded the whole album, and it was something called the Trixies, and you'd have to listen to it to understand exactly what that means. But it's really good, and it's been fun working with those guys because they're old friends, and I just love the music.
Yeah.
And then Brian Ferry, and I don't know, what else have we been doing? I don't know, lots of other stuff.
Obviously, you continue to keep working.
Oh, John Fogerty, he's got a record coming out he recut most of his hits, like 20 of his singles. And Tony Berg and I recorded the tracks with Matt Chamberlain and Bob Glaub, and then John worked on it with his son Shane for like a couple of months with Brandon, and just trying to really make it sound authentic. And we were just approving the pressings the other day. And,
that voice, man.
Yeah, and it just sounded. It sounds very close to the original, but it's a little different, and he sounds amazing. I went to see him at the Beacon Theater in New York about a month ago, and the show was just stunning. I mean, it was so much fun. And he's 80 years old.
I was going to say, man, he's got to be like in his 80s. How
these guys do that?
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I am in awe of any of those guys who are still around and still doing it.
They're still going for it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that's rock music. You know, it just keeps you young. You can keep doing it until you drop dead. Look at Ozzy, he's doing it, and then
yeah.
You know,
I just recently went to see my buddy Pab Boothroyd was mixing AC/DC.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And again,
fantastic.
Dear God, you know, these guys are ancient.
Yeah, but they're great.
They're still out there rocking, man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's no denying it.
Well, I'm glad that guys like you are keeping this alive, man, and keeping it running. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're not going to get another era like this.
No. My friend Steve Van Zandt is a big, he's just doing everything he can to keep rock.
God bless little Steven, and
keep it in the consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Andy Burton is his keyboard player. Goes travels around with him a lot and still gigging constantly.
Well, his band is amazing. Just I mixed a bunch of things for him, you know, over the last few years, and he's incredible. I mean, he's just a genius as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Musical genius. He's written great songs, and his arrangements are just fantastic. They're like classic, old rock arrangements, but they sound modern.
Well, Andy always jokes about the fact that on every song he wants a Glock. You know, Glockenspiel. Here, you know, he said, I got a preset just for Glockenspiel.
Oh, sure,
because,
yeah.
You know,
Well, the whole New Jersey Springsteen thing.
Yeah, yeah. But again, you know, I mean, I'm so grateful that kind of stuff is still, you know, relevant. And, you know, we're turning on a whole nother generation to that now.
I hope so. I hope people get it, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny once in a while when you talk to some young person and they haven't really heard of the Beatles, you know, and they're like, how is that even possible? It's like not hearing about, you know, the World War II or something, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you know, and it's weird for me to put that in perspective and think, you know, I mean, that era was as far back for us, for them, as, you know, our parents, you know, thinking about like World War I or something.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's like, okay, I get it. I understand why you've never heard of this, you know.
Yeah.
But like, man, I'm grateful to be able to, you know, I mean, I work with AES, you know, and I'm grateful to be able to create, like, you know, we did this workshop last night on Trident, you know, and talking about Trident Studios and talking about, you know, like the first Queen recordings and, you know,
amazing.
I mean, 6 months after they opened, they recorded Hey Jude there.
Really?
Yeah. You know, and on the first 8-track machine, you know, the first Ampex 8-track.
Oh, really?
You know, that studio got the first Ampex 8-track, you know, and just thinking about that, man, I mean, those, you're not going to get that again, you know?
I don't know. I don't think so. But who knows? We don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm grateful to have come up in that era myself.
Yeah, well, me too. Yeah. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah.
You know? And politically it was rough in the, you know, in the 60s and 70s, but nowhere near as rough as it is now.
Hello.
Now it's like, what the hell is going on? You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, and that gives me hope too, you know, watching the way the pendulum
God,
swings.
I hope it swings back to sanity pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty well lodged in insanity at the moment.
It's pretty crazy right now. Yeah, it is.
But we'll see.
Well, on that cheerful note, Bob Clearmountain, thank you for being my guest.
Yeah, sure, my pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, I'm Daniel Keller. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us each week for Insights in Sound.